Or 1 o'clock.
I wondered that because
So I have Kathy looking at it, which is not like common occurrence, but, she's gonna try and find a room for us. All we really have to do is just about verify you saw the report,
Yeah.
the rough draft, if
Yeah.
everyone's okay, if there's any conflict, everyone had it. And then the report's under my signature, so I don't need anybody else to sign it. So once we all agree on the content.
so still
Let's open
Yeah.
the meeting. Good morning, everyone. This is the Senate Education Committee. We're going through the referred bills. So first, let me open it up and pledge allegiance. Senator General, please.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So the first bill we are picking up is SB 93. I would like that one to be ITL'd.
You want it to be ITL?
Mhm.
I make a motion that we ITL SB 93.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on it? It was a bill that was suggested by the late Senator Clegg. And I think at this point, we needed to work on it anyhow. And I think at this point, the best thing is to just to ITL the bill. And I'll be happy to take it out.
Senator Ward, do you want to ITL it because you want to do more work on it later and think that it's a discussion for another session?
When we heard the bill,
Yeah.
it was not very clear what it was going to do, and I got a lot of feedback from charter schools saying that this was an impossible thing, and Senator Clegg himself wanted to be working on it afterwards. So since he's no longer with us, I think that we can take it up at some other point.
More to that's really where I was going. Okay, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, so it's not completely over, but it's over for now.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Do I have a vote for ITL for that bill? All five?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 5-0. I'll be happy to take it out. The next one is SB 214, establishing a Department of Early Childhood Education relative to pre-kindergarten pilot program. And I have a note that a similar bill was in the House, HB 620.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Certainly.
So I think there's some good parts of this bill, and as such, I filed a new bill to deal with early childhood education and funding at the state level for early childhood education. My concern with this bill was that it's not ready. There's some things that are objectionable and not well thought out. So I guess I'm trying to remember. I know in the House what I'd make a motion of right now, but I can't remember in the Senate what I would make the motion of. But I'd like to interim study it because we do have a new bill coming forward on a similar topic that I think will be good for everybody. I'd worked with Senator Whitley to try to get to an amendment on this bill that would make it similar to the bill I filed for early childhood education, but we didn't quite get there.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure if we have an interim study recommendation here, and if so, that would be my motion is to interim study this.
Senator Prentice?
I was actually going to ask Senator Lang if he had worked with the prime sponsor on this. And it sounds like you did, but you haven't been able to come to an agreement.
Yeah, we haven't come to it. We haven't, there's still a lot of work to be done on the amendment. And so we decided I think the best thing is to move forward with the new bill because we haven't come to a conclusion that we could actually adopt at this point. And we're up against some deadlines. So going on, I don't know that we'll get there by then because there are a lot of people involved, Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, and then Senator Whitley and myself. So I just ask that we interim study this so we don't kill it. So it's not ITL'd and we have a problem with similar language coming up again. But I am bringing a bill forward to make state funding dollars available for early childhood education. So
Senator Prentice?
And again, so are you, so on the bill that you filed, have you worked with Senator Whitley on that?
I am.
Okay.
We went out to Nashville to a early childhood education conference, and we're doing another one. Again, we're working with a lot of stakeholders to try to get to a bill that everybody can support.
Okay. I mean, certainly, that I can really appreciate, and I'm glad to hear. I just don't want, I don't want this to get lost, and I don't want to vote, against it to, send a message that I don't support this moving forward. And if there's an agreement on another bill for the next session and interim study gets us there process-wise, then I guess, then I'm conflicted, but, okay.
There's a bill.
We don't have to decide on this today. It has to be done by the early part of December. So if you have some more stuff to put together.
Well, I don't think we're going to get to it in this bill. So that's my
Yeah,
point.
I
Is
don't
that there's
think
too
we are
many.
either. It's just like-
There's not going to be enough. I don't think we'll get an amendment that'll be agreeable to everybody at that point in time. So I think that extending, basically, by interim studying this and allowing the new bill to come forward, we extend that deadline all the way to June rather than middle of December.
Okay.
So, and again, so just for Senator
Any further
Prentice's, one of the
discussion
things
on-
is my original plan was to extend the EFA program, and that, of course, met with a lot of resistance, and so we modified it. So we took EFAs out of it. So those are the kind of things I'm working with Senator Whitley on to be able to expand state funding, but not put it under the EFA program.
So if we may I?
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Ward. So if we interim study this process-wise, it can be taken up in a different form in the Senate by our rules, and you're working collaboratively with the prime sponsor of this. I'm a co-sponsor of it because I do believe in this effort. So I want to make sure anything I do here today doesn't become a barrier to that, but I also want to be clear on the record that, early childhood education.
By interim studying it, we would clear any risk that the Senate President would say this topic's already been ITL'd and therefore we can't take up the bill. By interim studying it, we take that off the table,
Okay.
and it just we are allowed to introduce the bill again.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Senator Lang, for,
Senator Janda, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I would agree with both Senator Lang and Senator Prentice that it's an important issue, and we shouldn't merely put it to the side. And I think interim study is the appropriate path forward. And it sounds like Senator Lang is working with the prime sponsor to make this a reality.
Okay. So the vote is to interim study. Everybody is in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, we need a second.
Yeah. I'll second.
For interim study?
Motion for interim study. And again, I'll second it, Peter, for interim study, and my comments are on the record in terms of supporting early childhood education and the effort moving forward and the collaboration between Senator Lang and Senator Whitley.
Right?
That's it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And who wants to take it out? Lang will take it out. SB 217. Establishing a rural and underserved area educator incentive program for higher education and making an appropriation therefore. Prime sponsor is Senator Fenton.
So can I make a motion?
Yeah.
OTP? What Senator Fenton is here.
We have a OTP from Senator Prentice.
And then when, after Senator, I think
I-
Senator
well,
Friend
I-
wants to speak, I just
I
want to
think
speak
we
to my
need to
motion.
amend the bill first before we can OTP.
So do we want to at least get a motion on the floor so that we can spend some time talking about what amendment language you want to have, and then, or, I guess I'll withdraw, let the discussion happen, and we'll go from there, all right?
You want to talk about it?
Sure, I think, thank you, Madam Chair. We have met for, well, myself only the past year, but the Teacher Shortage Commission has met for the past 2 years, looking at how we retain and recruit teachers. And one of the main things that came out of this was helping with loans, loan repayment, loan forgiveness, things like that. And I think this bill truly addresses that. It's in our report that'll be out soon. So I think we just need a small amendment dealing with the dates, and we can move forward with this bill.
You want to put forth an amendment? Are you working on one?
No, but I have a small change as to the effective date, essentially.
Okay, I guess I need to know what is the amendment, or what is it you want to change?
So I would have changed the effective date by a year from July 1st, 23 to 2024, or do a 60 days after passage. Because if we do it, the date change to July next year, we would need to change the fiscal year.
Change dates.
So really, I think we could just do a 60 days after passage to.
So now I think,
Senator Prentice,
I've talked enough, let Senator Lang go, and then I'll jump back in.
Senator Lang?
So again, if we don't have to make a decision on this one, maybe we can come back and revisit it between now and early December. And my reason being is, for some reason it's nagging in my brain. We added some language in the budget to deal with some retention and recruitment issues and put some funding aside somewhere, and I don't remember. And so I'd like to, before I vote on it, I'd like to have time to go back and find out from finance where we put all kinds of things in there. I know we put Senator Waters, first responders language in there, and I don't know who and all wasn't covered in the budget. So I guess I'd just like to find out what other programs we ended up sticking in the budget or increased funding for that had to do with any
Okay.
kind of program like this.
Senator Prentice?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Senator Lang. So I remember speaking on the Senate floor to this particular issue. I actually think it might have been the budget voting, the day that we voted on the budget, because I wanted to get this included based on the teacher shortage. And I remember my words, then I'm going to talk to you about what might be in there,
Yeah.
and then we'll proceed. My words that day, and they stand true today, is that I have never in my career thought I'd see help wanted signs out in front of schools and fire stations like we see now. So that got voted down, that got defeated on the floor as an amendment. Now, we did, I believe, include funding from a bill that Senator Carson worked on that would pay for, Senator Carson worked on, brought through this committee, that would provide financial assistance to student teachers when they were in their, when they were, I call it clinical, because that's what we do as paramedics. Is that what you're thinking about?
Well, I don't remember. That's my point. My point
Okay.
is that if we don't have to act on it today, I'd like to just at least put it out so I can go talk to financial, go talk to the LBA,
Right.
see what we have in the budget that is relative to teaching and teachers and incentive programs that may be inclusive in what we did in the budget, so that when we come back, we can talk about how much money we've already spent and what programs have already been put in place, if any, before we add more to it.
Okay.
So-
And the teacher, the commission on the teacher shortage will be out very soon. We have to have that in by the 1st of November, so we can see what's in that.
Okay.
And
And-
then we can just hold off on this one.
Right, this may be a vehicle to include some additional recommendations from
That's
that committee, so.
So if I may, Senator Wood, thank you, Senator Lang, for indulging me. And it's really important to me that we get this passed. And if it's going to, so if we find some hidden treasures in the budget, which I know one of them, I'm sure, is the clinical pathways, workforce pathways that Senator Carson brought forward. But if there are other opportunities through the Teacher Shortage Commission or study committee that has been in place, then good. Let's say, is it study committee or commission? I really haven't had enough coffee, and I feel like I've been driving for the last hour with a mission. So, okay, fine. So just let the record reflect that if maybe there's more we can include, but I really think that this is important at this point in in education and in public education in New Hampshire. Thank you. Done.
So let's just hold off on this one until we get some more information, and then we'll take it up at a later date. Okay? Okay. 219. The salary floor for public school teachers. Again, this is a teaching educator issue. And many of these things have been discussed and come out, so I think we have covered some of that in the teacher shortage thing as well.
Oh.
219. Senator Prentice.
Motion to ITL and expedient to legislate.
I'll second that.
And IPL this bill, okay,
So Madam Chair, if I may.
yes. Senator
So
Lang.
if you remember, if I remember the discussion right around this bill, there's been several amendments, I think, proposed that were floating around for this bill. The crux of this bill is the idea of school funding non-teaching positions over teaching positions. And if you're going to choose to do that, then it's going to adjust teaching position salaries, for lack of a better phrase, due to the inclusion of non-teaching positions. So Senator Murphy was preparing an amendment. I don't know where the status of that amendment is at this point. I just remember that at the end of the conversation, there were amendments flying around. I just don't know if this is one that Senator Murphy stepped back into to prepare an amendment for the committee. But again, the idea was around schools prioritizing non-teaching positions over teaching positions and whether that should have an impact on teaching salaries. If they're choosing to do stuff, then we should focus that. Again, we get this argument all the time about teacher salaries are too low, and then we choose to invest money in non-teaching positions. And this, I think, was the force districts into the idea of if you're going to do that, then you're going to bring your salaries up to a certain standard before you can do a non-teaching position. So I just don't remember where it was. So I'm going to vote against the ITL motion until I can have a conversation with Senator Murphy so I can find out where that amendment is, what this prime sponsor wanted. And we got to come back anyway for 217, and we can take it up then for an ITL position. But a motion today kind of closes the door on everything.
Okay, so you want to wait on this one?
I'm going to vote against the ITL and ask that we hold it until we have time to talk to the prime sponsor.
So we need to find the amendment that he has.
Right. I know it was passing around. I had it at one point because I read it and I didn't agree with it. And I went back to him over it and had a conversation with him about it.
Okay,
Madam Chair, if I may, I have some copies of a floor amendment that Senator Murphy had helped work
Right.
on for this bill. If I can distribute some
Right.
copies if
Sure.
you would like to see that.
So can I speak to my motion?
yes.
So I too share the concern that we need to, especially given the shortage and my previous comments about this, the work to recruit, to deal with the teacher shortage. I understand what we're trying, that we need to pay teachers better. But I don't think by forcing districts and targeting language and being very specific about the kinds of positions, and I brought this up to Senator Ennis because he came to introduce this. I don't remember if Senator Murphy did or not. But I remember Senator Ennis came in and I was like, is this the way to go with this? It feels like we are targeting school districts that want to spend time and a focus on working on building more diversity into their workforce and education. So it's if we want to get into prescriptive, it's too prescriptive. It forces local districts to do what we think they should do rather than letting them do their own jobs that their local elected officials elected them to do. So I want to teach, this is all, again, We have a shortage of teachers. We need to pay them better and do other things to support them in their roles, but this is not the way to get at it. And I think that probably if you look back at my comments last year, I said the same thing. So, okay, done.
20, and this is another one. It just sounds to me like we need to look at this a little bit closer.
Can I say something, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
I just want to echo my colleagues' sentiments. This bill is a mess, in my opinion. I'm not sure how this amendment fixes it. I'm not sure what it fixes. It sounds like, you know, we're targeting administrators for teachers. We want to steal from Peter to pay Paul. You know, that's not the right way about going with things. We're getting into collective bargaining issues. The language in the bill talks about New Hampshire's education bureaucracy, administration below. You know, I think it's just a very messy bill, and I don't believe this amendment fixes it. And I don't think waiting is going to fix it either. That's just my opinion, but
Okay.
thank you.
Any other thoughts? You want to hold off? Senator Prentice and Senator Fenton want to ITL the bill? I agree that, you know, when I first read the bill, it was very confusing. It was not a good, it's not a good bill, a good, you know, solid bill. Do you have any thoughts?
I have a question, and maybe you all could help me as far as refreshing my memory. Did we talk about, when we were discussing this, did we talk about the benefits? And I think, of course, in my district, we, it's a very poor district overall. Did we talk about teacher benefits, administrative benefits, how that could roll in? And sometimes I know in the Littleton School District, the paras actually, with their health benefits and their benefits, is why they take the job. They actually make more with the benefits than they do the pay. So I can't remember if we had any discussion on that or not.
So Madam Chair, if I may.
I don't remember. That was so long ago. I know.
So
Senator
again,
Lang?
I think everybody agrees the underlying bill was problematic, right? I don't think there's any argument against that, right? We all agree the underlying bill. But the underlying principle of non-teaching positions being paid at a higher rate than teaching position was problematic for the author, the prime sponsor. That was the reason he brought the bill, was where we're having one argument where we're saying teachers aren't being paid enough, but then we're paying non-teaching positions at a higher rate than we're paying teaching positions, and introducing non-teaching positions when we haven't solved our problem with our teaching positions. That was the intention. The amendment that you see in front of you turns it into a reporting bill that requires some reporting to let it clear to the taxpayers that we're spending money on non-teaching positions versus teaching positions, which is a transparency and clarification issue. Again, I'm not ready to vote on this. I'm going to vote against the ITL motion. I'm going to review this again, and I'm going to go back to the prime sponsor and have the conversation with him about how this amendment looks. I'm not saying we won't ultimately ITL this. I'm just saying that I'm not ready to vote ITL today.
Okay.
So I hear that we need to have some more information, and you want to double check on what his amendment really does. I think we need to take a close look at it. I'm willing to hold off and put it together with the other one that we need to look at again. And we can do that in a couple of weeks and just get it done. So we have 2 ITLs and 3 hold off. Can I have a vote which way to go? ITL?
I'm gonna stay with my ITL, and then
Okay.
if there's another motion, then we'll entertain that, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna withdraw it at this time.
You know, wait,
I'm a no to the ITL.
okay. Senator
I'll
Janda?
second the no
Okay.
to the ITL.
Yes, to ITL.
Okay, so we have 2 ITLs and 3 hold off, 3 against the ITL, so I guess the 3 will have it,
I don't know if
yes.
you need a motion to hold off on it, but.
Yeah,
Please hold it,
think we
we'll
should.
take it up again.
Procedurally, I think that's a good idea.
So I'll just write hold off here. And we'll meet on this one again in a couple of weeks, and hopefully you will have a chance to talk to Senator Murphy about
I
it.
will make sure I reach out to you.
Okay.
and have it on
Good. Got that, Peter? Good. Okay, HB 572. relative to eligibility for free school meals. And I think that went to finance. And I don't know what happened in finance. Here's the fiscal note.
So Madam, if I
Yeah.
remember,
Madam
Senator
Chair, if I
Lang?
may. So it wouldn't go to finance yet, right? It made it through the
We didn't-
House. It came over to us. It was held in our education committee. If we should choose to pass, it would go over to finance. But I can speak to some of this. And again, I think this is one we might want to hold off on. But I can talk to as to why.
Well, I have a fiscal note from April 18.
I'm okay waiting on this bill. Do we get some more information?
Okay.
So Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes. you
So
may.
Senator Gendro and I are on the committee that deals with, we formed a study committee to look at SNAP, Medicaid direct certification, and this particular
Okay.
issue of what happens if we increase, what's the cost-effective increase. I will tell you that I had a conversation with the LBA on this because I was concerned about the fiscal note, the $50 million to $77 million fiscal note that's on here. And it comes to find out that fiscal note would only apply to the food aspect of if we were to pass this law. It doesn't have any impact. I say it doesn't have any impact. It was not financial. It wasn't financially modeled to deal with if we increase free and reduced to 300%, and that now applies to our state-centered, student-centered funding formula, and changes the number of FNR students we have and how that affects the funding formula. That wasn't calculated at all. And that's another, in rough draft, we figured that it was somewhere in the neighborhood of around $9,600 per student on FNR when you add a new student to FNR between the extraordinary needs grant and the modifier for the student-centered funding formula. So we only have half the cost established here, and that's strictly the cost of food. Not what it does to the rest of the education formula budget. So I do think we need a really hard look at this and see what it does. There will be districts that are hurt by this. And that sounds funny that we're going to be increasing formula, but we're increasing food availability to students, but districts will, because of the increased number, will end up losing money in the extraordinary needs grant side of this conversation
You
because of
two
that.
are on the committee to look into this and the SNAP. Did you get the email from Bodie DeShane?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so you have that because that was one of his.
Again,
concerns.
even on the committee, we're looking at, nobody wants hungry children to go hungry.
Right.
But there is a pragmatic and a realistic cost, and we have to know what that is before we pass a law. And we should know what it is before we pass a law. Like I said, we only have one half of the equation. It's $50 million a year. If we increase to 300%, is the minimum estimate from the LBA on this, just for the cost of food that the state would be obligated to pay. There would no federal reimbursement because we can't above 186%, 185%. It's on the state if we choose to expand it. That's not part of the federal free and reduced reimbursement portion. It's only 185% below the feds will reimburse us for.
Okay.
Anything above that would be a decision of the state and a cost of the state to do. And we have yet to figure out what the impact is on the funding formula. So I'm not by any stretch ready to vote on this. And if I was forced to vote on this right now, I'd vote no.
So I would, Senator Ward, if I may, I'm willing to hold off for Senator Lang to dedicate just more of his time to clarifying around all of the costs related to this. But I do want to make it clear that this is the kind of thing that we should be let's be clear on what the costs are, and we should be finding ways to pay for it, including using state dollars, because there's overwhelming testimony and science about this. Children shouldn't go to school hungry. Like, this might be the one place that they actually get a meal, and I don't think increasing this percentage is gonna break the bank. In fact, I think it's gonna do better things for families in New Hampshire. So I'm with you. If you've got the time and you can, flush this all out and bring it back but I want to commit to finding a way to do it rather than any, possible costs becoming a barrier. I think it's that my opinion, I think it's that important, and I appreciate your willingness to dig even deeper so that we have every fact on the table when we fight here. Start the fight here to make sure the children are fed.
Now, there's no question that kids don't do well in school unless they have something in the tummy. And
gotta be
that's-
awful,
goes without
isn't
saying. So when is your report due?
So I've already written a draft report on that committee's.
Okay.
We're still waiting on some members to submit any content changes we may have.
Okay.
It's due November 1.
Okay.
So I'll have it out in the next
Is it
week.
due by November 1st? Oh, okay.
So I've forgotten, I was supposed to schedule a meeting at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Everyone's coming in. I didn't book a room. But, so it was an oops on my part as chair. But again, we'll have our report out by November 1.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, I will tell you that the third charge of the committee was to look at this exact issue. And at least from my recommendation to the committee is that we may take no position because we don't have a full financial flush of what this looks like. And while again, nobody supports a child going hungry at school, we have to be pragmatic and realistic of what the state budget looks like. I mean, I'm sure we'd all like to double the number of troopers we have. We also have problems with that too, right? For law and order purposes, but we have to deal with the pragmatic and reality of what our budget looks like. And so I think our recommendation is probably going to be no recommendation, that it needs a longer study on this single topic of what it costs and what it looks like, because it's going to be very significant to the budget.
I know, now I'm asking for for money or help to feed families at Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
So this have already started, so, and I happen to represent a pretty poor district, so they all need some help.
Mhm.
So is this another one that we're gonna hold off on? And maybe we can meet after you have your report out, maybe early part in November.
Scheduling.
Mhm.
We go over scheduling with Aaron because I do have one week that I'm in DC in November. So
Okay, well, I'm gone for a couple of days in November, so.
all right, we'll work
Okay.
with the magic of Aaron Jones and get this done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do I have a vote on holding off on this one as well? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's hold off. So we have 2 that we have finished and 3 holding off, and I think that's it for our bills. You got all of that, Pete? Good,
Motion to
excellent.
move out of executive session.
Yes. Good. All those in favor of moving out of executive session?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, the audience, for coming.
Axe throwing. An accident.